again. The Bank of England is the source of all fiat money nightmares going back to the 1690s. And they are the mother river, the mother source of all the fiat money catastrophes that we've had. And it's kind of like the Ethereum of fiat money, right? Ethereum is the source of all fiat, of all crypto, of all altcoin nightmares. And the Bank of England is kind of the source of all the troubles in the fiat money world. But Najib Bukele is right to point out that the Bank of England needs to dissolve itself because it has no purpose of use here on planet Earth. Right. This is a recurring theme. Paul Krugman we've visited his career many times. He's been dead wrong. Always. He espouses a philosophical, a Keynesian economics model that has as much a failure as communism or socialism has been a failure. And all the academics, the Steve Henke, I think his name is, he's been spouting falsehoods now for years. And why does this all happen? Why do we have a government and a central bank that seems to relish being wrong and causing untold misery? Because whenever they make a mistake, they can print money to cover it. Everybody else who's not printing money for themselves has to work for a living. And if you work and you make a living and you have a family, and then you watch politicians, you watch Paul Krugman, you watch Steve Henke, you watch the Jay Powell, you watch the Bank of England. I mean, England's not even, it's not even anywhere near a democracy. It's an outright autocratic supreme ruled by a monarch. On display, we just saw the festivities that went on there, and that harsh monarchy of lies, and they just print money. That's all they do. When they make a mistake, they print money to cover the mistake. And that's what Bitcoin fixes, and that's what El Salvador understands. That's why the president can basically thumb his nose at the Bank of England. The bond market is the foundation of the global financialized economy, and it is crashing after many years of abuse. You know, it's a question of what I would call financial incest. The central bankers, instead of allowing price signal to inform them about which way bonds are going, they breed derivatives with other derivatives incestuously to create incestuous derivatives that refer to themselves and give price signals that tell the market makers in the market bad information, and they go long bonds year after year for more than a decade, even though the underlying fundamentals have deteriorated to absolute garbage. And now that garbage has floated to the surface, and everyone is saying, oh my God, we live in a world of risk that we never thought possible because Paul Krugman never told us about the risk because he's on the payroll to lie. And oh my God, now the market is reflecting that risk. Oh, now what do we do? Well, what you do, if you're smart, is you buy some Bitcoin because every single piece of paper is going to zero against Bitcoin. Right, well, regime change, I think is also what he's referring to there is the economy is moving from being consumer-led to producer-led. And the consumers have had low interest rates and artificially low access to credit for decades, and it created this huge bubble. Now the bubble's popped, and now the price discovery is moving over to the producers of commodities over more in the East. I see that Greenpeace has spent $1 million on this big ad campaign. Change the code. They want people to think about changing Bitcoin's code from proof of work to proof of stake. What about it, Parker? Is this a good idea? Should we change the code? Parker, you're in the state of Texas. We've got a lot of chatter on the federal level. Senators like Elizabeth Warren want states like Texas and Wyoming to ban Bitcoin mining. Is this a good idea? For the largest shitcoin, Ethereum, has recently merged and gone from being proof of work to being proof of stake. Can you explain fundamentally what's the difference between these two? Right, well, proof of stake, I mean, you could argue that for thousands of years, the system was proof of stake. And Bitcoin came along to solve the problem of proof of stake, and everything inherently wrong with proof of stake was something new called proof of work. So this idea of going back to proof of stake is you're going back to a system that we know didn't work, Parker. Right, so now you have the CBDC, central bank digital currencies, being launched. Seemingly they're going to hook up and ally with the proof of stake crowd. And so this is the battle lines are being drawn between proof of stake, CBDC on one side, and proof of work on Bitcoin on the other. How does this play out? Parker Lewis, thanks so much for being on Max and Stacy Report.
Nice to see you guys. Thanks for having me back on.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Max and Stacy Report. Want to thank our special guest, Parker Lewis. Until next time, remember, coming to you from El Salvador, land of the free, home of the Bitcoin.